And we're live. Hey everyone, I'm Marco. I'm one of the co-mentors here at the Firehose Project, and I'll run you guys through our info session today, right in front of this historical 100-year-plus old wall in our office building. All right, let's get started. What do we want to cover today? So I think I have several things that we want to run through. First of all, we go through our core curriculum, right? I want to explain to you what kind of web applications you're building and also how we customize our curriculum so it works for entrepreneurs as well as for job seekers alike. Then I also want to talk a little bit about the support system, right? How do weekly office hours work? How do our mentorship sessions, one-on-one sessions work with the mentors? What about our agile team meetings during the group project phase? And what about our question and answer forums and Slack channels? Talk about that. And then at the very end, I want to answer a question that I get a lot, which is, Marco, what can I really build after I graduate from the Firehose Project, right? What can I do besides being an entrepreneur and launching my own application, or besides landing a job as a web developer on a team in a startup or a tech company, right? What is that? So let's jump straight in and go through the core curriculum, right? Before we jump in, right, if you have any kind of questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Some of you guys already sent me questions, so I'll make sure I answer them at the very end. You can also go to the Google Plus page and use the little comment box and put your questions there, and I'll make sure to go through them at the very end and answer all of them, or as long as I can, depending on how many questions we get, but I'm usually pretty good at answering all of them. Okay, let's jump straight in. Core curriculum, go through that. So first of all, the whole program is 15 weeks long. We have 2 weeks of the Firehose intro in the beginning, right? That's our pre-work, where we work with you guys through the coding fundamentals. I know a lot of you who are watching this right now, you're already submitting your coding challenges on the pre-work on the Firehose intro, so keep doing that, right? For everyone else, if you have not applied for the Firehose intro, for the pre-work, to work on your coding fundamentals, I highly recommend you do that right now. Go to thefirehoseproject.com, look in the top navigation at the top, there is a link that says get started, click on that, fill out the application, take a moment to fill out the application because we're actually looking at all the applications, and then we can set up your account and have you code with us and work on your coding fundamentals. Once you submit all your coding challenge solutions, we review them, and then we give you a thumbs up, and we accept you into the core program, the full 13-week program. Once you're in the program, we start you out with building a simple Rails application. It's pretty basic, takes a quote, stores it in a database, randomly displays it on a page. You should be able to launch that fully functional web application within about 10 hours, right? So that's the first application that you launch. And it gives you a really good, like, 360-degree view over the entire Rails application. So that means you write Ruby code, you use the Rails framework. You're going to use Git, GitHub, and Heroku. You ship things live to the server, and you also get a good look at your database, Postgres, that we're using there. Again, we're wrapping this all in a really good front end. So what we're shooting for is when you're at a party, right, and you pull out your phone and you say, hey guys, this is what I built the last couple of days. Your response from your friends should be nothing else but, oh wow, you built this? That looks awesome, right? It always looks good on mobile, desktop, and tablets. That's what we're shooting for. So 10 hours in, you have your first application live. We're moving on. What we want to have you build now is a Yelp clone. And I think the most interesting feature that we're building on a Yelp clone is the integration with the Google Map API. So that means we need to write the Ruby code to grab an address that a user enters into a form, store it in a database, and then translate that address into longitude and latitude coordinates and pass that back into the Google Map API so we get the pin on the map, right? Obviously, that alone wouldn't be a fully functional web application. So on top of that, we have star ratings, user comments, and we also like to send emails out from the application when, let's say, I create a pizza place on my Yelp clone and somebody leaves a comment or a star rating. I'd like to get an email from the platform saying like, hey, Marco, somebody just rated your pizza place. You might as well reply or check that out, check that comment out, right? That's a typical thing for driving user engagement, sending out what's called transactional emails. So we pull users back onto the platform. So we learn how to do that too. We integrate with another API called the SendGrid API to handle all the email management. And then we also obviously need to have user authentication, right? Log in, log out, user registration, so users can create accounts. We also build a dashboard where we can see a little bit of the analytics, right? How many places do I have? How many comments? What's my average star rating? We do that as well. That usually takes people around 3 to 4 weeks to complete. Next up, we jump into test-driven development. Test-driven development is the industry standard, and any web developer worth its salt should know how to do test-driven development. What it is, in a nutshell, is we need to write automated software tests to test the features of our web application consistently to make sure they're not broken and they're still working. That's what happens in the real world every single day, hundreds of times, and you guys need to know how to do that too. That's why we're teaching you that immediately after you launch your second web application. So going through that, you will learn that, and it will take you several weeks. Then we'll build the next web application with you, which is an online education platform. So two-sided marketplace where we have instructors on one side and we have students on the other side. Students can come, sign up, register for the platform. They can purchase courses and content produced by the instructors, right? So when I say purchase, that's already like a hint what we're building here. What we're doing is integrating with the Stripe API so you guys can actually accept credit cards directly on the platform. So we're doing that in that application. What we also do there is going really deep into database relationships and the object-oriented programming, because we have different user roles. We have instructors on one side and we have students on the other side. How do we track who purchases what and who gets access to which course, right? And doing that is what's at the core of so many advanced web applications, tracking those different relationships between different user types, right? The other thing that we're doing in that course is introducing JavaScript, and we're actually introducing it when it makes sense. So we're building a feature out using JavaScript that improves the user experience by improving the user interface, right? So what we're building is a drag and drop interface where instructors can reorganize the individual blocks of their content without reloading and refreshing the page, right? So drag and drop, everyone kind of understands what that means. We do an AJAX request to our server, so we don't have to do page reload or page refresh to do that. And we introduce that when it makes sense, so you can actually learn JavaScript from the ground up by building a feature yourself and launching that, right? That two-sided marketplace, the online education platform, takes about 3 to 4 weeks to complete. Throughout that entire time, while you're building these web applications, we also want you to solve coding challenges, right? These coding challenges, they're focusing on writing really good Ruby code. They're the same coding challenges that are used at companies like PayPal, eBay, Yahoo, Peloton, like tech companies and startups alike, to actually test during the technical interview process if people understand how to write complicated code that solves real-world problems, right? And we're teaching you that starting in week 2. The other thing that does is, like, not only does it improve your chances or like really prepare you for the technical interview process, but it also enables you to build really advanced web applications because you have those advanced skills of writing algorithms, of writing really good Ruby code, right? And that serves the entrepreneurs as well as the job seekers equally well in building advanced web applications. Now, in around week 8, we split our curriculum into 2, and we have 2 parts. We have entrepreneurs on one side, and we have job seekers on the other side. Let's talk about the job seekers, people who want to have a web development job, and switch careers, look for a job, land that job, right? What we're going to do with you guys is we're going to put you on a group project. And here's why. The reason is because in the real world, the best software is built by amazing teams, and we want to make sure you know how to be part of an amazing team, right? We want to train you so you're a high-impact employee from day one on a job. And what that requires is that you know how the web development workflow works. You're able to work together as a team. Not only does that mean knowing how to code review, getting critique, refactor your code, and knowing how to use GitHub in advanced mode, but it also means building an advanced web application that goes way beyond what I described so far. And what we're building there is a chess game as a Rails application. Now, usually people tell me, oh, come on, Marco, it's a chess game. It's not that exciting. Well, it is really challenging to build, and it's really exciting for the people that are going to hire you to look at that code because it's really hard to technically implement that application. So what does that mean, right? We're just thinking about the implementation. How hard is it actually to write all the logic to move your queen or your king across the chess field? How hard is it to write the algorithm to detect checkmate or the castling move? These are challenging problems to do, and they actually show that you really know your code well. And then also, obviously, we have to write all our software tests as well to make sure everything is well tested and work together as a team. What you walk away with is a solid, rock-solid portfolio of code that you can actually show off during your interviews, your technical interviews, actually demonstrate that you know how to not only work as a team, but integrate algorithms in your web applications and have them well tested, right? And just to give you an example, one of our students over in LA was actually asked in the technical interview process, how would you build a chess game? And he was basically, oh, funny you should ask, I just built one with a team. But let me open my computer and run you through some of my code, right? And that changed the dynamic of the interview completely. Now, for the entrepreneurs, right, what we have for you guys is we want you to build and launch your own web application, right? And that's for the people who really have an idea and want to make sure they know how to launch that. What we do for you guys, we take your idea, we wireframe it out. That means we draw out every individual screen of your application, and then we break it down into individual coding steps and figure out what you should build first, second, third, and then the individual features that you can push live and get your final web application idea out there and launch live on the internet, right? It's mostly MVPs, minimum viable product. If you're on the entrepreneur track, you will know what that means, and that's what we're building together with your mentor. All right, guys, that's kind of how we run you through the curriculum, right? We're building 4 web applications that increase in complexity and really teach you like those real-world coding skills, and then we split our curriculum up for job seekers who build an advanced web application that packs a ton of algorithmic knowledge in, and actually working together as a group for several weeks together and really getting the hang of how to be part of an amazing team so you're ready for the real world. And then we also have the entrepreneurs who we actually help you guys launch your own product. Now, let's talk a little bit about the support system. And again, make sure if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them my way, email, or on the Google Plus page. I'm happy to answer them. Now, support system, right? We have several things here. We have the Q&A forum, we have the mentorship sessions, we have our weekly office hours, we also have Slack channels, and we also have our Agile team meetings for the group projects. I usually like to start talking about the Q&A forum because of what it enables, right? Usually people tell me, oh, come on, Marco, that's not that exciting. Like, it's a forum, I know. I have an error message I posted in there, and then I get my answers. Right, but it's what it enables us to do, right? When you're stuck, let's say you code on a Thursday night, you have an error message, you post the error message in the forum, you get help within a few hours, and you're on your way and you can keep going. So not only does it help you get unstuck when you have an error message, but it also enables you, when you come to your mentorship session, you're not going to use the mentorship sessions to troubleshoot. So the mentor, who are senior web developers, who are leading teams, who are like, these are world-class mentors that you wouldn't have access anyplace else, right? We're looking at eBay, PayPal, Product Hunt, Techstars, Y Combinator companies like Shopify. They're coming from really amazing companies, and they're taking you under their wing, and they don't want to necessarily help you troubleshoot because you can do that in a forum. What they want to do is take you under their wing, pair program with you, go through an algorithm together with you, look at a feature, improve that feature in a web application, and pair program with you and get you to the next level. That's what they're trained for, and that's what they're passionate about, right? And it's not so much about pointing out, hey, you're missing a comma here, hey, you're missing a semicolon over there, you have a typo over there. That we can handle in the forum. When you come to mentorship sessions, really accelerate you to the next level. And that's why the forum is so important, because we don't have to spend time on the simple error messages. We can take care of them beforehand. And we also have the weekly office hours, right? And I love them because all of our students come together virtually. You get to know all the other students. These are some of the students. You will be on group projects afterwards. And you also see what kind of problems other students are going through, right? We get questions all over. It could be like at the very beginning, it could be very late in the program. We hear what students are working on, and we live troubleshoot some error messages. We give advice, we've got career advice, technical interview advice, just basically refactoring an algorithm. Anything goes in the office hours. We oftentimes have guest mentors in there as well that provide their perspective as well. And then what's really interesting here is like when you just started, right, you basically see like, wow, these are students who are like 12, in week 10, 12, 11, 12, and you see what kind of code they're working on, right? So you don't understand everything, but you can see that path, right? Likewise, if you're like a student who's already pretty far along, you're actually seeing, like if you're a student who's just starting out and you ask him a question, right? The students that are pretty far along can obviously go like, oh wow, I had exactly that same problem, and they can solve that question for you. So it's kind of that teach back moment that you're getting that moment in that point in time, and it really solidifies your learning in a different way, and it's really awesome to see that. Obviously, you can also make friends as part of that community, right? And then for the people who are on the group project, right, in the last 4 to 5 weeks, you also have a weekly meeting with a group project lead checking in, making sure you guys are all on top of it, on top of things, and you're actually producing and working through the skills together, and no one's falling behind. So we have that check-in as well. So during the last 4 weeks, we have multiple check-ins every single week. We also have a Slack channel where all our students are in, mentors are in there too, where we communicate. It's a chat group basically, where a lot of communications happen as well. Just like in the real world, every developer has a chat room where they communicate with each other. So that's the whole support system, right? We have the forum that enables you to come to the one-on-one mentorship sessions, error-free. We have the group project where everyone comes together. We have the Slack channel for individual quick conversations in between all the check-ins. And then we have the group project check-ins for our Agile team meetings throughout the last part of the program for all the people who are on the group project. Now, let me answer that one question that I usually get, which is, like, what can I actually produce, right? Besides launching my own web application idea on the entrepreneur track, besides finding a job as a career seeker, right? And I think the answer is this: you now have the power to create and build web applications, right? You're a full stack web developer. So when you have an idea, you can go take the weekend, take a week, and build a web application and push it live, get user feedback, and then consistently improve that. And you're definitely gonna have those skills besides reaching your goal of getting your own application live or finding a job as a web developer. So I think that's the course goal. All right, guys, that's pretty much it, what I wanted to cover in the info session, running you guys through the curriculum and telling you how we customize it for different people. And then also, I want to talk a little bit about the support system. But now let's see if we got some questions. So feel free to submit them. I'm about 2 minutes ahead of you guys. That's how Google Hangouts works. So make sure you submit your questions as soon as possible. All right, I'm going to check in there if I got some in my email. All right. Okay, Scott got a good question. You just started on the pre-work lesson. So again, guys, if you're not on the pre-work on the Fires intro, go to theFirehoseProject.com, click on the Get Started link in the top navigation, and apply for the pre-work. And his question, Scott, your question is, describe how the pre-work sessions compare to the core sessions in terms of depth, pace, and challenge level. Great question. Okay, Scott, so let's go in. The pre-work, right? We're working on your coding fundamentals there, right? So we're not going too deep. We do a little bit of Ruby. We do a little bit of HTML and CSS. We don't introduce the Rails framework at that point. Your first web application that you're going to build will be a lot more complex than anything you do in the pre-work, right? So that's already cranking up the skills. In week 2, we start you out in the first coding challenge. And that coding challenge will be at least twice or 3 times as difficult as the first one, as the very last one in the pre-work. And then that starts doubling, right? So at the end of the program, just give you, not end of the program even, at week about 7 or 8, you will do coding challenges that are the real coding challenges that our mentors are actually solving to be part of the program, right? So they're so challenging, that's what they encounter. I just talked to a computer science graduate at Stanford who's now leading an engineering team out in San Francisco, and I gave him that coding challenge. He's like, oh wow, that's the coding challenge we actually use to hire people for our own company, and I had to solve them for you. So you could already see the level that we go into. So that's how the difficulty level ramps up really quickly in terms of the coding challenges, the Ruby code, and the depth is a lot deeper, right? The Firehose intro is used for us to give you the fundamentals, but then we really accelerate you during the core program. So the depth goes a lot more into the Rails framework, a lot more into Ruby. Test-driven development algorithms, you cover all that, right? And building actually complex web applications. Same goes with how to use GitHub as a team, right? You'll learn it on the team project as well. And we have lessons on that as well. The same with inheritance and object-oriented programming. Things that you need to understand to build fully functional and advanced web applications. I think there was a third part to that question. Oh, the challenge level. Yeah, so you go through that, the depth is going to increase in a challenge level. I think I mentioned that already, how challenging the coding challenge become and how difficult it actually will be building the web applications that we have in place for you. There's a lot of self-guided sections where we take the training wheels off and want you to figure it out yourself. There's also a lot of bonus challenges that come your way if you hit certain milestones. And you need to figure out how to do those by yourself, because there's 2 types of learning modes, right? We have like the guided one where you follow guides, and then actually you'd be like, well, here's a challenge, figure it out. And that's a different kind of learning, and that's what we're guiding you towards. So at the very end, doing a group project, there's no more guides. This is the real world. This is like you're in a meeting figuring out, okay, what's our database architecture going to be? And you need to figure that out with your group and then assign tasks of it, right? You have a little help from a guide, from a agile team lead. That'll be the same as your VP of engineering in the real world. And that person tells you, well, this is how we break things up. And then you need to code it and you're on your own. Getting to that point is what's key, because that's when you hit what we call the inflection point, where you become a self-sufficient developer. There's a great blog post out by my co-founder, Ken Vizeka. You can find this on his Medium level page, reading like what really matters to landed jobs, hitting that inflection point. Okay, Scott, you have another one. Oh, there's more question, I love it. When do you introduce TDD to the students? That be week, I think 3 or 4, depending how fast you go through the curriculum, right? How quickly you pick things up. But week 3 or 4, we start TDD. What framework are we using? RSpec, Cucumber? No, we use Minitest, which is inbuilt in Rails. So for everyone, don't worry what that means right now. These are advanced, more advanced questions for test-driven development. And we do that because it matters how good you are at writing code. I can teach you RSpec or Cucumber in like an hour or 2, but teaching you how to write solid code and think through things, that's a lot more complicated. So that's what we're focusing our time on. So there's a few questions. How many classmates are typically going through the program at any one time? So we're enrolling students every single Monday, right? So there's not really a classroom in terms of like, here's 30 students that start all at the same time. We have people with various backgrounds going through the program. Just to give you an example, and the reason why I'm wearing an Indiegogo t-shirt is because one of our students is actually, who just graduated, is the head of developer operations with tons of developers underneath him from Indiegogo. That's why he sent me a free t-shirt, right? Because he always wore one, and I was like, hey, I want one of these t-shirts too. So he mailed me one, right? That's why I have this Indiegogo shirt now, because he works there and is actually managing developers. He went through our program. If you're on a group project with that person, it doesn't matter when you started versus that person started. He has years of experience already, and you'll be actually able to code with somebody who's a lot more experienced with you. So that's a really huge benefit, that we have like really advanced students, and then we have students who don't have that much background, and mixing them up and learning from each other, because it's a challenge for both sides. And that is exactly how it is in the real world, where you can't choose your coworkers, and you got to make do with what you have. How many students have graduated? How many students completed the course? Okay, Scott, usually those questions mean, do you know what you're doing and how long have you been around, right? So let's assume that. 2013 in the summer, we started with everything. We flew around the country. We taught at Harvard multiple times, Harvard Business School, Carnegie Mellon, Brown University, University of Hawaii. We taught high school in Hawaii as well, Babson College, right? They're all asking us back to do more in-person workshops. So we took what worked out of teaching in the classroom at all these really, really good universities and packed that into what you guys going through today, our online classes. So how many students have graduated? Hundreds went through our in-person classes, hundreds went through our online courses, and then that's what you're getting right now. So I hope that answers your question. If not, please clarify if that's good enough for you. But yeah, do we know what we're doing? Yeah, we've been staying in the classroom, teaching people how to build web application for quite some time. And if you look on, go to our alumni page and read some of the reviews that you see on Quora and see what people are saying about us, and look at their blog post experiences going through our program, it should tell you that we really know what we're doing, and it really works with people. Great, let's see if you have anything else. Good questions, Scott, I like them. Over here, a few more questions. Let's check in here. Okay, what's the application process? Application process, I think I explained that already, right? It's like, I want you guys to go through the Firehose intro, right? And solve these coding challenges. Go through them and solve them, and then we can accept you into the full program. If you have some experience, like Scott, for example, looks like he already has some experience because you asked me some good TDD, RSpec, Cucumber testing framework questions. That might be a bit simple for you, but go through it. It's still good catching up on that. You might solve it not in 2 weeks. You might get through in a couple of days. That's perfect. I can promise you will ramp up really fast during the core program. But we use that to ramp everyone up to certain levels so we can start accelerating. Another question. What's the weekly time commitment Weekly time commitment is a minimum of 20 hours per week we want you to dedicate to the program. That's what we find is needed to get you to the point where you become a self-sufficient developer, where you hit that inflection point where you can learn at an accelerated pace, where you can look at coding documentation, API integration documentation, and understand what's working, and then implement it yourself. If you're at that point, you're at a self-sufficient level where you can teach yourself how to move to the next level and be like, oh, I need to learn another framework. No problem, I can teach myself how to do that, right? Getting you to that point, we get you there the fastest with that 20 hours per week time commitment. Stretching it out to a longer time, usually not so good, because you're basically wasting time on Earth, like learning something at a slower pace, and everyone who hits the inflection point before you will learn at 10 times the speed than somebody who hasn't hit that moment when everything starts clicking. Great question. So let's see if another one. Here's how the materials are presented. Materials are presented in multiple different ways. So I think we have 3 ways. There's obviously we have written guides, live instructions, and then also videos, right? Let's talk about written guides. So most of our guides are written guides, really detailed, that tell you step by step on how to build the web applications. The reason why we have written guides is twofold. First of all, that's how things are in the real world, right? Real world, you don't get a video of somebody explaining it, how to integrate with an API, how to use open source code. It's always documentation written by developers. So by using written guides and following that documentation, you prepare yourself how to use tools in the real world. The second is, it's really good reference material where you can do a quick search, go in, and find what you need. And we see that time and time again, how our graduates who still have access to all the guides, working now on web developer positions, come in and grab some of the code snippets in our guides and then implement that at their work, right? Because they know, oh, I've done that before, and here's where it was on lesson 32 of my Yelp blog. Here's how I integrate with the SendGrid API and send an automated email notification. So that's 2 reasons. Then we also have live instructions, right? One-on-one mentorship sessions, the group project meetings. We have the office hours, right? That's all live instructions. And then we have the videos, right? We have videos on inheritance, object-oriented programming, test-driven development, model view controller architecture. How do all the pieces of a web application fit together? HTTP requests. There's a lot, but we give them to you at the moment when you need them, right? When we know now's the moment things will click if you watch these 3 videos. And that's when we give them to you. So that's how we design our platform from our background in the classroom, knowing that this is the moment when we need to present a student with X, this piece of knowledge. So several pieces come together and click. So yeah, again, written guides, live instructions, videos when you need them. Cool. Let's see, what else do we have? All right, it's awesome. I get coding challenges from you guys right now while on the info session. Love it. Don't listen to Marco. Just keep coding, right? Love it. And a few people already signed up, so I'm looking at those applications afterwards. Why is a group project so important? Another question. I can quickly answer it. I mentioned that already. This is what happens in the real world. There's always teams that build web applications, that build software. You want to know how to work as a team. You don't want to be the person who can only code by themselves, because that's not how it is in the real world. So learning how to do that is really crucial. So we do that for a full 4 to 5 weeks where you do nothing else but working together with your team. Of course, you can work on side projects, but that's your main focus. And doing that will really teach you how to work as a real web developer, and gives you that competitive advantage of landing a job, because you know, and technical hiring managers know that as well, that you can demonstrate that you have your code on GitHub, on your portfolio, that they can see this person is able to commit code on day 1 to my team, which is a huge bonus, because I don't need to train you for a month and go through all these learnings on the job while I pay you. You already come in and you know how to get things running and going. Cool. Another question, let's see. Scott asked another question. How are mentors paired with the students? Random? No, it's not random. Actually, we do a lot of matching there, right? So we talk about, right? We have all our mentors, right? First of all, let's zoom out one, Scott. So our mentors, right? I said that before. They're really like heavily screened, and it's really hard being a mentor at the Firehouse Project. We turn a lot of mentors away. And scary as it sounds, there's a lot of mentors coming from other online schools or in-person coding boot camps. They want to work for us, and they can't solve the coding challenges that we give them. And then, sorry, there's no way you get any student to mentor here, because these are the coding challenges that our students need to be able to solve. And if you can't do that as a mentor, you have no reason to be in the Firehouse Project. So we screen them really heavily. They come in, and again, they have work experience. Like, they launch their own startups, they raise millions of dollars. One of our mentors raised $2 million before he even graduated high school, right? So that's kind of the caliber. And you have people who work at PayPal and really good tech companies, eBay, Yahoo as well. They were head of product at Flickr and Bitly, right? That's what we're looking at, Techstars, Y Combinator startups. And now, how do you get matched with them? Scott, that was your question. So the matching happens. We look at your performance during the pre-work. We look at your coding goal. We look at your coding background. We look how well you perform in the first 3 days of the program. And then we match you based on those attributes with the best mentor, right? If we would do it random, I don't think that would work out that well. And if you choose on a quick bio, and you choose on a little story and a picture. Oh, that guy looks cool on the beach coding. I want to be matched with him, right? But if your goal is something different than what that mentor is really good at, what his or her strength are, then the match wouldn't be that good. So that's why we do that matching. We have every Monday morning, we have a big team meeting where we go together and figure out which student will be best paired with which mentor, and that's when the matching happens. So you get the most out of it because the mentor is really perfect to help you reach that goal. So Scott, I hope that answered that question. Yes, all mentors are equally awesome. Love it. All right, now I get more coding challenges coming through. Perfect. Let's see if we have another question here. I think that's pretty much it. I don't have any other questions right now. Let me double check here one more time in my email if I got everything here. Oh, there's one more question. It's like, what are your graduates are doing now, right? Can you tell me a few stories? Yeah, no problem. So that's multiple ones, right? So there's Erin in New York City. She works now full-time at Artsy, working on the Art Genome project. So if you're familiar with Pandora, the radio music station, right? Huge tech company. They're mapping the genome of music, and she maps the genome of art. And I think Artsy raised like $25, $30 million from top venture capitalists. So she's on that team. Really interesting what they're doing. Then there is like Angel, who sold used cars in LA of a parking lot. Now he works at Sensei, a young startup that received a round of funding recently, and he's one of their lead developers. There's Ilya, who is from Europe, and now he works for Enernaut, a huge company that's publicly traded. He's one of their Ruby developers there, and he's working to build energy dashboards, energy analysis dashboards for energy consumption, electricity consumption. Really great job what he has. There's several, like Brad is in Pittsburgh, right? He works for a boutique Rails company together with some really great developers. People here in Boston as well, people in San Francisco, getting really good jobs. And then there's the entrepreneurs like Steven, who built this on-demand medical marijuana delivery application, right? He has several hundred customers right now, and actually he just showed me a chart of how much money goes through his platform. It's mind-blowing, and it's definitely 6 figures up after just a few months launching that. And then we have CEOs of companies, startups that raise several $1 million going through our program right now because they want to get the technical skills, and I'm assuming they're going to launch some really great products as well because they already have the background for everything else. So that gives you a little bit of a spectrum of what our students are doing, where they're coming from. Cool, let's see, I think that's pretty much it. I'll do one more quick check. All right, guys, that was it. Thanks so much for coming. No more questions. I hope I could answer all of them. If anything else comes up, you forgot something, feel free to email me, right? You guys all have my email, mark@thefirehoseproject.com. Now, if you're not already on the pre-work, go through that, submit your coding challenges, and Scott, if you think they're too easy for you, I promise you'll be plenty challenged in the core program. So keep submitting them, and we review them, and we'll see if we can accept you in a full program. Other than that, guys, thanks so much. Thumbs up. Thanks for coming. Stay awesome, and I'm looking forward to coding with you guys. Take care now. Bye.